everybody. It's me, Topher. I'm back, but today I'm joined with a special guest. I've got the GojuSpencer here on the show with me. Spencer, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. It's fun trying to coordinate this between Topher and myself across some big time zone differences, but happy to be here, and I think we're gonna have a fun convo today.
Yes. As always, subscribe on the YouTube, or just subscribe on a podcast service. I appreciate the support. If you ever have questions or you ever want a topic covered, feel free to DM me on the Instagram, that other Wing Chun guy. I'll be more than glad to answer questions. So, on that note, I have questions for Spencer. So we've known each other on the socials for quite some time now. I think that's
Mhm.
quality pandemic related friendships forming.
Definitely,
um,
definitely.
um, we are kind of a whole network of folks who pass memes around back and forth on the internet. So Spencer, I know you did a really great conversation with Kung Fu Conversations, but can we get the abridged version of the martial arts journey of Spencer?
Yeah. So the abridged version, sure. Like I was I think a problem child when I was real young. So sure enough, my mom was like, well, you need some discipline. So I got thrown into the world of karate first. Soon after that, got moved more officially into the world of warangdo. So a little bit more of like a modern, uh, kind of like mixed take on the Korean arts. Um, then when I was about 11-ish, 12-ish, I got introduced to Wing Chun for the first time. Began practicing with some people in a school that I had in town. As early adulthood kind of came about, I think again, like a lot of people, this is certainly not unique to me, but uh, kind of fell out of things and did whatever normal young adults freshly turning 21 and things like that start getting into. And then as I got in a little bit further into my 20s, I had my older daughter when I was about 23 or so. So, that kind of takes away from like your normal hobby time and things like that. So, soon after, I got right back into Wing Chun, and here I am another 10 plus years later, still kicking.
Awesome. It's interesting. Two things you mentioned that I think are hilarious. One, Harangdo. We actually had a pretty predominant Harangdo school here in my area. It was one of the guys who kind of pioneered it here in the U.S. This is where he settled.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember his name, but I know a friend of mine. She did Harango there for years. And she invited me to one of the testings one time, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's a lot like the Taekwondo I did." So,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, it's one of those where I don't hear about it very often, but when I do, I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Right. I know you have one more thing.
Oh yeah,
I was
no,
just gonna say, yeah, you don't hear about it too terribly often. But when you meet people that have actually done it, a lot of the stories are similar and they're generally pretty positive. So I'll touch base on that in a second, but I'll let you get to the other note you
yeah.
were gonna mention.
It's just the other note about it's funny because like yeah, around like 21, 22, I took a hiatus from martial arts altogether and I was just
Okay.
doing stuff. I had to finish a college degree. Like
Mhm,
something
mhm.
fierce. But that's actually how I got back into Wing Chun was I got done with my degree and I was like, "You know what? I need martial arts because I am starving right now."
Some kung
That's
foolery.
I need some kung foolery and that's actually how I got into Wing Chun. So,
Cool, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, Warringdo is so the funny thing that I think kind of like it was interesting to recognize it when I was so young, but being somewhat separate from, things like Taekwondo, and just like other, I guess at the time there probably weren't too many popular Korean styles outside of that, at least where I was growing up. But, you could see the clear difference in what was being employed in terms of like strategy and striking and stuff. And for me, it was night and day because if we did get to participate in like group tournaments with people of like different schools, man, they would get pissed off if you used your hands a whole lot more. But we just did. So, we used our hands. And I'm not saying that as like a negative thing against people that use their hands less.
Yeah.
But the fact that we used it so much more, and how it got under people's skin was something that I think I liked a lot.
Yeah.
and gravitated towards. And obviously that kind of put me on like a progression of where I'm at today.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, it's one of those I as a Taekwondo. Cheers. That's
Hmm.
I'm drinking coffee. You're drinking
It's
beer.
the
That's
evening for
because
me. I was about to drink coffee. I was just taking a nap before hopping on.
oh, awesome. Awesome. But you know what? Beer will also get you there, trust me.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you got?
This is something my wife keeps on buying. I don't know. It's just like this fancy can Suntory kind of
Oh,
beer.
okay.
Um,
Dear Suntory, if you want to sponsor this podcast.
yeah, there you go.
Um, no, but yeah, no, that's cool. I love Japanese beer. I love Japanese beer and Japanese whiskey.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, no, I'm obviously pretty lucky with that one out here right now. Gotta pump the brakes a little bit and make sure that I keep it in check though.
Uh,
It's
I
easy to everybody
same.
wants to go. Everybody wants, I mean, that's the thing is like you go out and you meet a random person. I was watching a baseball game last night. I met a random Kyokushin guy that was interesting. But yeah, I was watching a baseball game at a place down the street and some like hotel staff party came in. Oh my God. And they were like all night they were just sitting there asking me about how to say things in English that are appropriate for like hotel staff and they were like just freaking out. So people were kept on bringing beers and I was like, oh geez, one of these nights.
It's a beautiful drinking culture over there. Uh, um, yeah, that's awesome though. But yeah, so topic of the show today. I figured, you know what, let's talk about most of us, many of us in the kind of the millennial kind of spectrum of things. It was funny, somebody had pointed this out on a social media and said that, you know, my generation was inspired to do martial arts by Bruce Lee, but you kids were all inspired by Dragon Ball. And with the recent passing of Akira Toriyama, I saw many, many, many of us just posting, like lamenting our childhood slowly crumbling away uh, in one way or another. And I figured, you know what? I've been trying to get Spencer on the show. You did that phenomenal Master Roshi inspired photo of me that
Hmm.
I actually I framed it and I have it hanging in my office now at work. So
Love it.
yeah, I have it. I have that one, and right below it, I have a photo of Jiraiya and Naruto eating ramen. I'm like, yeah, this is my life right
Oh,
here. So
good
that's like
stuff.
my little thing. And I figured, you know what? Let's have Spencer. Let's talk about let's kind of memorialize Toriyama Sensei, but in a way of like what his product did for us, what his story did for us in our martial arts journey. And that's kind of where I wanted to start. So, for you, what was the onboarding on Dragon Ball?
Okay, so really quick,
Mhm.
before I get into this on me, I want to. So I just mentioned how I randomly met a Kyokushin guy
Mhm.
last night.
Yeah.
He specifically told me I started doing karate because of Dragon Ball, and I was like, oh my, how serendipitous is this? And so I linked up with him on social media, and he, sure enough, like all of his avatar stuff, all Dragon Ball. He was going through his phone, showing me all this stuff, Dragon Ball, and he was like, "I started
Wow.
doing karate. I've been doing Kyokushin for 13 years. And it's all because of Dragon Ball." So for me, first and foremost, if I didn't just say that a second ago to say talking about that guy I met, but I mean, for me, uh, well, I want to point out that I think anybody who grew up watching Dragon Ball around the same kind of time period that we did and got interested in martial arts, has probably more than one time tried to do a Kamehameha. I
Yeah.
mean, without question, someone
Without
has tried that. A Popeye, if
Popeye.
you will,
Popeye.
Washiyuke kind of thing. Obviously, that surfaces in martial arts, but for me, look, you know, come home from school, it was on TV. I had friends who were Japanese when I was younger, so I had some kind of introduction to it. I noticed the spiky hairstyle similarities between, Dragon Ball characters and things like Final Fantasy characters. Especially if you're reading like any kind of gaming magazines from back in the day, and there was all the toy figures in the back,
Yeah.
and I'd see all the Final Fantasy stuff, and then I'd see all the Dragon Ball stuff, and I was like, who are these guys with spiky hair that's black? And so, I started getting into it from there. Um, but so. my friend who really first kind of introduced me to Wing Chun, his name is Billy Armstrong. I affectionately call him Billy Arm Weak, even though he is far stronger than me. But anyways, Billy Armstrong, he and I we used to watch tons of Dragon Ball together and play the old collectible card game. So
Yes.
there was an old card game. We would play like uh bootleg versions of Dragon Ball GT Final Bout all the time. I had to get like some mod chip thing for the back of my. You probably got
Funny.
one
Yeah, hold on a second. I actually have it's
or a
right, it's
legit copy.
legit copy. Hold on. Um it's in this stack. I have a stack of stuff right next to me, and I'm like, dang it, I know it's in here. Cause my friend Bruce, he's kind of offloading his retro collection because he's about to move away. And he like came over with some stuff. He's like, here, happy birthday. And his oh, which one is it? It's not Ultimate Battle 99. It's the one with the balance of power. Shoot. It was released here in the US on the Sega Saturn, but it was a PS1.
Hmm.
Where is it? Oh, you know what? I may have put it in the drawer already. Oh no. Unless it's just right here. No, it's not. It's funny enough you mentioned that because yes, I do actually have one of those just sitting here somewhere. I have a
Well,
whole stack, but I digress.
right. So the copy that I was able to play, so I had to get this like thing that would plug into back to the back
Yep.
of my PS1, and then I would have to
Spring
use like
hold
a
open.
boot. Yep, boot up disc, and then you put the toothpick in, and it like pushes the little thing down, and then you swap the discs at like the after the
Yep.
like
Yep.
the PlayStation like the OG
Yep.
kind of like loading zone. So so we'd play a ton of the collectible, like trading card game. He would always play Piccolo. I would always play Vegeta, or Trunks. I played a little bit of Trunks. But anyways, that game, it's a shame it's gone. There's new ones now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would play a ton of that, and we would watch martial arts movies, and we would geek out like crazy.
Yeah.
He and I actually, this was after he kind of introduced me to Wing Chun, but we actually like memorized and choreographed the one of the fight scenes from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay.
Obviously none of the flying because we're humans and we can't do that. But there was like the rooftop fight chasing scene uh before identities and things like that are revealed. Anyways, there's this section in there where they're fighting and it's like they're stepping back and forth and it's almost got a couple elements of like Chigger going on. So
Okay.
like they're staying connected with their legs as they're going back and forth,
Yes.
pushing and going, and then they get the hands involved as well. And so my buddy and I, who again would just watch tons of Dragon Ball, play the games, all that kind of stuff, the one who literally first got me into Wing Chun, yeah, we would, I don't know. I mean, Dragon Ball was kind of like everything for us. And um, hell, we probably tried Makanko Sapo, also
Oh yeah.
all sorts of stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
Oh
but yeah, that's kind of like how I got into it.
yeah.
How about yourself?
Semi similar. I was actually lucky. One of the local like Channel 4s around here had gotten their hands on the Ocean dub. And
Mm,
so they played Saiyan through Ginyu Saga on repeat every morning. Um, so it's like 6:30 in the morning. So like right when I'm trying to eat breakfast to go to school, me and my
mm,
friends, like I was like, yo, there's a show on because they had two shows. They had Sailor Moon and then they had the Ocean dub. And Sailor Moon was 7 o'clock, but Dragon Ball Z was 6:30. And my friend was like, I was like, yeah, I was watching Sailor Moon. And my friend goes, no, there's a show on before that one that you need to watch. And I was like, okay. So I got up a little earlier and yeah, it was Dragon Ball. And I was like, what is this? And then
oh
that's
yeah.
right around the time, it was, I would say like a good, maybe a year. We only had the Ocean dub. And
Mhm.
that's when Cartoon Network and Toonami picked it up. And then Funimation started doing the dub. Um, they picked it up. So then it was, yes, after school, that's when we started watching it. And yeah, same thing. Me and my little group of friends just got obsessed, to the point where you know, backyard on the trampoline. Like we got to train. We got to be like Goku. We got to shoot a Kamehameha. And then at some point, my friend had a super dope grandma who had like internet, which was
Oh,
like
yeah.
another thing that was like, yeah. And he found a website where he could buy the toys from Japan. And so we were
Mhm.
importing toys to play with from Japan. That was like our first exposure to the GT stuff because he's like, dude, check out this red Goku. And I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? And like little kids not understanding, like, there's more. Um, and we ended up, another kind of fortunate thing about this area is that we had a lot of the early big comic book conventions roll through, Orlando, which is like two
Mhm.
hours away, and we would go and buy bootleg, the movies bootleg and the GT and all that bootleg because guys had it and they were like, oh yeah, you guys like that Dragon Ball stuff? Here you go. So never forget 3 episodes for $20, man. It was a good deal back in the day.
Oh yeah. I used to love collecting once they started doing like the VHS that would have, like it was just like the manga over here where
Yep.
like
The
it would
photo.
turn into like, yeah, some kind of image. Oh man,
Yeah.
I had all that stuff. It was so
Ah,
those were literally some great times, man.
yeah. I
Um,
no, it was good. And what ended up becoming of that is we all went to an art school around here for high school. And they only had two phys ed electives. The first one was weightlifting, and the second one was taekwondo. And so all of us were like, well, obviously we're doing taekwondo.
yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's like it was literally because my group of friends were all like, we all love Dragon Ball, and then one day, free martial arts landed in our laps, and we were like, all right, that's what we're doing. Let's do it. And that's I kind of got started there. And I, sh- Dragon Ball has been with me ever since. Like, I mean, ever since I was a kid. Like, I don't think there's a moment where I didn't have some kind of Dragon Ball something near me at any given moment. Um, yeah, it's also been like I don't obviously similar experience with you about meeting the Kyokushin gentleman at the bar of like, hey, Dragon Ball was just like that's the topic we're gonna bond over. Let's go.
Literally just last night. Like,
Yeah,
and so that I mean, just like kind of coming back to like the topic of the conversation, I mean, if I can be move across the planet, be hanging out watching a baseball game while getting like some food,
yep,
end up talking to a guy about martial arts and Dragon Ball.
yep,
I mean, that is, especially when we're literally planning on having this conversation tonight,
yep,
that is crazy to me. But you got to imagine, like, there is probably so many people in the world
yep,
who say the exact same thing.
yep.
So if you know somebody through the martial arts community and you start talking about stuff, chances are Dragon Ball was a point of
It's a
interest
thing.
for pretty much everybody at some point in time,
Yeah, no. I
or something that
used
was inspired by Dragon Ball.
inspired, but I actually good friend of mine, Rav, was from Ecuador. And in Ecuador they got, Dragon Ball through GT like in
Hmm.
sequential order.
Hmm.
So that was one of those things like we're talking one day and I like mentioned Goku and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, Goku." And like he's like, "No, my whole childhood was like growing up watching that. Like that was what we had on TV. We had a whole channel that was just anime." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, Ecuador was the bomb for that."
Well, and it's what's really interesting to me is that something like that, something as I don't want to just say influential, but uh, you know, Dragon Ball as a catalyst for so many different like avenues that for people to get interested in things, whether it's art, whether it's all sorts of any other range of anime after that, whether it's martial arts, uh, it feels really unique. Like I don't hear a lot of people being like, so yeah, well, I've been doing Jeet Kune Do for 30 years now, and look, I just really liked Superman when I was a kid, and that's how I got into it. You don't really hear that conversation.
No.
Um, and that's not to say that like those American comics and all these different characters and IPs don't have special meaning to a lot of people. Of course they do.
Yep.
But the relationship that Dragon Ball, for some reason, well, obviously because it's a battle manga,
Yeah.
but but I mean the relationship that Dragon Ball has had for so many people in in helping shape the rest of their life by way of martial arts or even
Yep.
just friends or community or whatever it is so profound.
Yep.
Uh, especially with, with the passing of Toriyama Sensei. Uh, you saw that everywhere. I mean,
Yep.
what was the thing? The cartel chilled out for like
Oh
a week
yeah,
or something.
the cartels in South America, and that took like a 3 day took 3 days of mourning or something. It
Like a
was like
little hiatus.
this
Yeah, like a
this
little
this
hiatus.
this man literally stopped gang wars.
What?
But
With
um
Goku, yeah.
with
I
Goku,
mean,
well,
geez.
and think like in Venezuela and that the 20,000 people Genkidama to mourn him, they all gathered in the town square. But that's also, I mean, let's go back, a few years ago when the Jiren versus Goku fight dropped, and the city, Mexico City, bartered a deal with with Japan so that they could stream it in the town square. Like, I'm what?
Yeah, who does that? Who does
Who
that?
does?
I mean, well, and one of the funniest things about this too is like, I've got all sorts of, interviews and stuff with him through like different books and stuff that I've
Yeah.
collected over the years. I'm sure, I mean, plenty of people do.
Oh yeah.
But the funny thing that, is so notorious about Toriyama Akira is that he was like pretty lazy and
Yeah.
like just like whatever with like everything he did. Like he was just kind of like he was like an aloof cat
Yeah.
that could draw.
Yep.
And like so he was just kind of like going around and people were asking him about things and he was like, "Oh, I just liked these certain vegetables, so I named people after it."
Yeah.
And I got tired of drawing cities, so I always wrote into the stories that they had to go fly out into the middle of nowhere. Like
My well, that's kind of two anecdotes on that. The man, Super Saiyan's really popular, and it was all just because I got tired of coloring in Goku's hair.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just wanted to draw it white.
Just wanted to draw white. The other one though, did you see the very last kind of interview he had when he won the award, the anime award or something? He won like a
He was like
very
super modest and yeah, he was like
yeah.
super modest and humble. I think he like noted
Well,
about something about his health at that point in time
he
too.
did. He said I've been sick, but the line in that cracked me up was it's kind of weird to win this award because like I've never actually really watched the anime that's based on any of the stuff I've written. But all right, I guess. Like just like the
And that's actually kind of a crazy thing because a lot of people that were like the voice actors, especially in Japan, had like decades long personal relationships with him.
yeah.
And you would think that he would have been a little bit invested in like their voice performance and all that kind of stuff, but he was just kind of like sounding to the beat of his own drum, just
Yeah.
doing his own thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to me that he had such like this huge influence while kind of not really trying to.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
maybe that's just how it happens. Maybe that's
yeah.
honestly that's just the way that stuff kind of like naturally falls into place. I'm not sure, but geez, yeah,
I mean,
not really. Yeah.
yeah. You think about it though, like okay, take it back to martial arts for a second. Grandmaster Yip Man, dude was just trying to make a buck. Like not really wanting to become not wanting to necessarily spread Wing Chun worldwide or anything like that. Guy was just trying to make a living in Hong Kong after he losing everything, and
Hmm.
it all just kind of naturally fell into place. And he got a hit with Bruce Lee, and just one of those things. It all now he's a movie
I mean,
sensation.
ascended to legend status as
Status. Yeah,
as a result. Yeah.
yeah, and it's that kind of effortless, like almost zen like I don't force the path just happens, just
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's definitely interesting. You mentioned earlier you had a fun like Wing Chun related anecdote, mentioned something Wing Chun, Dragon Ball, something like that. I don't know.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
mainly just the fact that my friend Billy Armweek
Bill Arm,
again.
Arm
Yeah.
Week.
Billy Armstrong, great guy. He actually teaches Hung now. So,
Oh, dope.
um, yeah, yeah. He moved like maybe about 30 minutes, an hour away outside of Portland.
Okay.
And I know he was teaching in further up north. He kind of gravitated towards that after a while, but no, he was just the one that really got me into Wing Chun in the first place.
Yeah.
And he just also happened to be like a huge Dragon Ball fan with me.
Yeah.
I mean, literally like hanging out every day after school.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we would, get out of school, we'd probably play some either video games or like the card games or do
Yeah.
like martial arts stuff. Wait for like the episodes start coming on. I think Dragon Ball aired at like 5 p.m.
5 or 5:30, yeah, something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah. Especially once it was hitting like the Toonami circuit. But anyways, yeah, we would just like screw around and like, yeah, I mean, it was either Dragon Ball related or Wing Chun related.
Yep.
He was also a massive, massive, massive Bruce Lee fan, so he would jump into all his books and stuff like that, and we'd sit there
Yeah.
and we'd like look through the books and read things and try to like practice things and emulate
Yeah.
things and see what we could parse from the data. But no, it was just, Dragon Ball. It's just funny that yeah, the path that got me into Wing Chun was part of the same path with Dragon Ball that I had.
Yeah. No, and that's going through Facebook. That was a lot of people's anecdote, especially that, my friends who I grew up with of like, oh man, like I wouldn't be doing martial arts if it hadn't been for this show or that, and it's very, it's definitely one of those moments of like, hey, I like stop, like, it was good for me because it was like definitely a moment of like, this is part of the reason why I still do this. Like, it's that little bit of, I think we all search for that moment, that little bit of thing that keeps us young and spry as we get older and slightly more cynical about existence. But like it is definitely one of those of like, you know, the one frame from the manga that's come at life with as much energy as Goku. That definitely that.
I, I was gonna say because like
Yeah.
for all the various types of characters and personalities that you find within Dragon Ball, obviously Goku is just again he's also kind of just like the aloof cat
Yep.
of people. He's just kind of there and like he's like woo happy go
Yep.
lucky like not really thinking about things too much, laughing in the face of adversity. And that's that like young at heart. That's that cool young, or not, I mean not like cool young, but like
Yeah.
that's what's cool about having that lightheartedness about you. And it's so interesting that Akira Toriyama was able to, write a character just like that maybe kind of
Yeah.
like emulated him a little bit in life.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's also one thing I don't want to
Yeah.
sidetrack
No,
this
go
kind of
ahead.
notion,
Go
but
ahead. Yeah.
one thing that I wanted to call out too is the obvious connection to like Chinese culture or Chinese mythology
Yep.
that you find within Dragon Ball that for whatever reason, Toriyama Sensei was super into, and he really thought it was interesting enough to create this
Yep.
crazy world around it, right?
Yep.
I think there's elements of that that also help people who have like who have an affinity for martial arts or practice the martial arts as well, because it just links your interests and hobbies together one step further. And so,
Yep.
you know, what martial arts style do they practice in Dragon Ball? I don't know. Everybody's got like some kind of like loose influence from something
Yep.
to some degree,
Yep.
but but then there's like the elements of like just like you get Tien Shin and Tien
Yep.
and things like I mean just even like Yamcha's uh some of the original costumes and outfits and things like that pull
Yep.
a little bit deeper from Chinese culture and
Yep.
history again and mythology that I don't know. I think there's an element of that is why it has resonated so well with martial artists beyond just the fact that it's a whole bunch of fights and energy blasts and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I mean, it very much Son Goku being Sun Wukong.
Hmm.
Um, and like, why did I read Journey to the West? Because that's what Goku was based off of. I was like, oh, okay.
100%. I would not. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Dragon, but that's the thing is like Dragon Ball was that catalyst, whether it's martial arts or otherwise, where it got. I don't know. I mean, I I love how again profound it really ended up being, and still remains to be today, um, for those very reasons. It's
yep.
I
Um,
love it.
100%, just man, that's awesome that like, and a dude who really wasn't like a martial artist at all to have that much influence over the martial arts.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and insane. But it's and in today, especially post pandemic, like the sudden massive boom of health, wellness, and fitness. But like most, you go to the gym and like half the people in there who are just like weightlifters and stuff are wearing Dragon Ball. Like this is why they're
Oh
doing it.
yeah.
Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
insane. Of like, yeah, dude, I got to get that pump in like Goku. I got to get that pump in like Vegeta. Where's the gravity room? you know?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you see people with like rash guards and stuff like that, and like
Yep.
BJJ that are like Saiyan armor.
Yeah. Just like,
Crazy.
what?
Oh,
Yeah, it
and
was
people literally, okay, so here's another thing too.
okay.
Like I've worn, I don't own any of it, but like weighted vests and things
Hmm.
like that.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
It's
Goku,
Dragon
Piccolo,
Ball.
right?
Dragon Ball.
I
Yep.
mean, the reason that I actually would like to have some of that stuff maybe
Yeah.
specifically because of that. Like if I
Yep.
could throw on like a weighted vest and go do like kata, or if I could throw on a weighted vest and go do Sealam Tao or something like that.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And like my inspiration is 100% because of
Oh yeah.
the training stuff within Dragon Ball.
Yeah, because I'll never forget that Saiyan saga. I will never forget in the Saiyan saga, Goku takes off the white shirt,
Oh,
boosh, and Piccolo's like, "Oh, you train with weighted gear too," boom. And
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, ah, like I was like, and they, yeah, no, 100%, like little kid me being like, strap weights to myself, like
Yeah. Weighted wristbands, you know.
bands. Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah, like, and that's crazy to think about that too. Like that show influenced fitness training, like, but and frankly there's some really good and you see it now nowadays, especially in the fitness industry, like I've been rewatching the show, and Namek Saga, where Goku's flying to Namek, he's training, and then he stops, and it's like him eating and drinking and like napping, and people and like fitness, like top fitness people being like, no, that's actually, the show is correct. You need to like eat, like calories in, rest, recover, train more. Like, and I'm just being like, yeah, Goku was on top of it, 30 years ago. So
And then
crazy.
you obviously see Piccolo with all the meditation. Obviously, that's another
Yep.
one that
Yep.
people obviously incorporate tons of meditation no matter what kind of system or background they come from
Yeah.
or practice.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, Toriyama was he was either wildly observant or was true. I mean, it's probably a mixture of both, but I was gonna say, or just
Yeah.
truly gifted in a lot of ways. I
Yeah.
think it's probably both.
A little bit of
Um,
both. Yeah. But
yeah, God.
I mean, he very much probably, and again, like, to try and not put a Western lens on the observation of, like, we take a lot of that for granted because we didn't have that here in the West. Like a lot of these kind of understandings of martial arts training and stuff, like, but for Toriyama, living, being Japanese, living in Japan, probably had a lot easier time getting exposure to that material. So like
Mhm.
where we're probably viewing it as like, oh, this exotic thing, he's like, probably I'd be willing to bet he had a lot more exposure to it, of just like common, oh, that's common knowledge. It's what martial artists do. Like,
Probably. Yeah,
yeah.
probably.
So,
Yeah.
and again, but still, like for him to, again, like you said, there's that observance of like, oh, what do martial art? Oh yeah, martial artists do this. Yeah, let's put that in there. Like, you know, as a non-martial artist writing again, it's you mentioned, it's a battle manga, it's a fantasy story. I think that's another piece to it. He combined genre really well, because it's not just a battle manga, it's not just a fantasy story, it's all of these things, and it is
Mhm.
morality tale and all this other stuff that, like, I think, especially when writing, shonen, for instance, is kind of the point of like, let's tell a fun story that gets young boys interested in it, but also teaches them things they're going to need to know as they get older. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Like Vegeta, if
props.
you start off a genocidal maniac, you can
Maniac.
become a good guy in the
You can
end.
become. You can, if you start off a genocidal maniac, you can marry
Yeah.
a rich woman and she will fund your training for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
That is
Bulma
the goal.
literally, yeah, but he actually, geez, that's I haven't looked at it from that perspective until just now.
No.
Vegeta is making power moves, man. Come
Yep.
on.
That's why he's the Prince of all Saiyans, man.
I know, yeah, he's living up to the title.
He said he'd defeat Kakarot one way or another, and we all know how he did it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Oh man. But yeah, it's great. So, kind of as an aside, I think, what do you, now that you're in Japan, kind of getting things settled, what you training? What you doing just personally, training wise?
So, I would say I'm definitely not in a good rhythm. Not that I'm in like a bad rhythm or anything like that. So It's but obviously training with with my group and my dojo back in the States, having a wooden dummy at my house, having all of the weird training things that I had built, it was really easy to have like a good pattern to kind of like stay with. And I'm still waiting for the vast majority of my stuff to show up from the States at this moment. So it should be sometime within this month, which means that I can start making some more, yeah, I can start getting things into like a better routine. Fortunately, the nice thing about where I live right now is there's plenty of really good parks. I have a card in my wallet right here that allows me to go to two different Budokan that are really close. They have softer tatami floor. They have or like the like in a judo school. They have that. They also have hardwood, which is honestly what I prefer
Mhm.
for all sorts of stuff. So I have resources and places I can go and practice. Um, Obviously not having too many people to practice with is a challenge. So what that means for me is a whole lot of self drills, a whole lot of forms. Again, I really, really, really wish I had a wooden dummy out here right now. Uh, but I don't right now. I might just straight up buy one. I might try to make another one. I
Costco
just have.
Japan, man. Costco Japan has them.
Are you serious?
For a while they did, yeah.
Oh, there's a Costco not too terribly far from me.
Yeah, I think I remember when the Ip Man movies were getting big, somebody like posted Costco Japan, and they were like, yeah, they have like the freestanding, it has like the suction cups on the bottom, but like they had posted like, oh yeah, apparently Costco Japan has wooden dummies. And I was like, wait, what? That's
What? I'll definitely check this out. So I know I do know some Wing Chun schools in the area. Um, Different lineages, which is fine. I'm not super concerned about that. Anyways, I don't know. I just,
yeah.
I want to just get into I want my stuff to show up. I want to be back in a better rhythm. For the most part, lots of push-ups, lots of forms. That's honestly where I'm at right now.
It's
Self drills. So
yeah.
that and every single, I mean, I'm sure this is the same for most people, but every single time I see like a post out in the wild, give it a quick, you
Corner
know,
of a building,
like
yeah.
every door that's like super weighted and heavy, I'll push it open, bonks out,
Bonk some.
like bonks out, ride it out every single time. It's a horrible habit. And my wife
It's
is always just like, she's
uh,
always
uh
like,
closing
she'll just be
this.
like, can you not do this stuff in public, Spencer?
No.
I'm sorry. I have
It's
to.
always I always tell people like a coworker of mine, I'll be doing something and I'll just like I'll be in their office and we'll be talking about something and I'll just start like punching or bonk sowing and stuff. And I had a
Oh yeah, yeah.
coworker who was just like, I really appreciate you're always on the grind. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I can't stop. It's a nervous twitch at this point. Like,
The door thing is funny because there's all these like super weighted heavy doors here so that they close nice and firm and all this kind of stuff,
mhm,
which basically means they constantly feed back some kind of like power at you.
mhm,
So that's where like the bong sao thing is really fun for whatever reason. Like pushing open the door and like wedging my body a little bit out and like getting like the edge of the door to kind of like push right here.
mhm.
And then as I step out the door, I can pull
Roll
into
the
time.
tons.
Yeah, it's an odd thing, but I do it on like every single door
Yeah.
or gate. If there's like a
Or
gate that I
gate.
go through, same thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely like corners of stuff, walking up and just practicing like kicks and stuff. Kicks
Oh
or
yeah, yeah.
yep, that too. Some pock or some angle. But for me, a lot of it is the Gurk, just kicking things and being like, oh yeah, this is a solid. Look at this. Pop, pop, pop. Um,
That's why I want my dummy, man. I just
yeah.
my so my old the one that I made that I practiced with a bunch at my old house.
Mhm.
It's just being stored at my parents' house right now.
Yeah.
And I'm considering like I think I might be going back to the States in July for a buddy's wedding, but also my older daughter will be on summer break, so I'm sure she'd like to go see some friends, and I might just be like, all right, what do I got to do to ship this thing? It's gonna cost an arm and a leg,
Yep.
but I put a lot of work into it.
That's
So,
it's funny you mentioned the shipping. That's actually a big issue I'm dealing with now is trying to buy more long poles. and
Oh,
you
yeah, yeah.
cannot get them shipped. I can buy a long pole for like 120 bucks,
Hmm.
$300 shipping. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, are you kidding me? Um, so actually, Kung Fu cousin of mine, Karina, she does wooden weapons. She makes wooden weapons and wooden dummies and stuff. And they ship, what they do is they make them like 7 foot 11 instead of 8 feet, because apparently right under 8 feet is where the cutoff is for the like the price difference. And so all of these long poles are like 7 foot 11 inches. And I was like, that's kind of cool though. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, hey,
yeah,
you're still gonna be able to train and practice with it, and
yeah.
if you ever get yourself that extra inch, then there you go. But
Hey, 1 inch
uh
longer, 1 inch stronger.
yeah.
Oh
um
man.
I have I have a buddy that he joined the Goju Ryu dojo that I was training at and still very much a part of. But he joined a few months back, been very, 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 very diligent, but he's coming out here with his wife. He's actually probably midair right now.
Oh,
He's
dope.
flying into Taipei first and then from Taipei to Narita in Tokyo or outside of Tokyo, but over here. He's flying over here and I'm gonna go hang out with him next week, a couple times probably. But one of the things I want to do is take him around to a bunch of like old Tokyo Budo shops and things like that.
Nice.
However, it's the issue of getting things back that I know that he's going to have a problem with. Like he'll probably want to buy a bunch of random things that don't really fit into a suitcase.
Nope.
So
Just
hopefully he's able to find some really good stuff, but not get.
just buy a nice ski, man. Just buy a nice ski.
I know. I think. Well, I know that he recently ordered a new one. But I was kind of like, ooh, wish you wouldn't have done that because you're going to be over here, and I'm definitely going to take you to some like manufacturers here. Check
Yeah.
out.
So
So.
in where you are, do you, because I know one of the nice things, certain companies like Takado and all them, can you get the like go in and they'll measure you up and like tailor
Mhm.
you a gi right on? Oh, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
I've got
trying to.
all so like I've got all the like all the shops that are within like the just in like Tokyo proper. I've got them all just saved into my phone. There's like Tokaido, Tokyo-do, Shureido, obviously, Hirota. There's all sorts of different manufacturers. Actually, I can't remember the name of the shop for some reason. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the shop, but it's like oh it's one of if not the oldest like or longest running like Budo shops in Tokyo, but they have a ton of like judo stuff, a ton of aikido stuff, kendo, some karate as well, but they have all the like old or they have all the Kusakura, the brand
Mhm.
Kusakura.
Okay.
So they're probably most known within judo. But they have like and some like some really cool like Mizuno stuff as well. But anyways, I don't know. I kind of want to like take them up that way. There's some bookshops. I actually want to take them. Yeah, that's there's like this area Otano Mizu. There's some of those zones just like kind of like north from Tokyo Station. There's a lot
Okay.
of like old bookstores and like really interesting older city type stuff. And like some of those bookstores, I bet we could browse around in like a martial arts section and probably find some gems.
Yeah.
So,
It's um when I was in Hong Kong, fun speaking of like shopping and trying to find martial arts stuff. Yeah, when I was in Hong Kong, I didn't get to go to it, but Alex was like, "There's this one bookstore here. Just go straight to the back, and you will find gem after gem of martial arts stuff." Funny enough, you mentioned like trying to find like Budo shops and stuff. I remember being there with my Sifu in Hong Kong and being like, "Oh, Sifu, we should look for long poles here." And he's like, "Yeah, let's go." And he took me around like Mongkok and all that, and he was just like, "Oh man, they're all gone." Like a lot of those shops, he's like, "No, we'll go up to this place, and there used to be one up on like the third or fourth floor." And we went in, and it was like a sneaker shop now. He's like, "Oh, man, it's gone."
well, yeah, these are different.
Yeah,
This is a different
this is
product.
this is not what I used to buy, but yeah, it's one of those where it's nice that in Japan you still have a lot of those. Because I know in some places, like even New York, being in New York, a lot of the Chinatown shop, there's still a few there, but they're all kind of going
Mhm.
to the wayside. So yeah, it's one of those, man. Times are changing in a lot of ways, but I think it's nice again to bring it back to the topic of the show. Toriyama's influence is still predominant, still perpetuating. There's still people wanting to get into the martial arts and training and wellness and physical fitness because of him, and that's going to leave those of us who are kind of moving into that. It's weird to think about, like, no, I'm moving into that phase where I have to start teaching other people now, and like
Yeah.
to move
Yeah.
into that phase and being like, it's kind of not like a bad thing, but yeah, it's now on my shoulders to try and communicate this to the next group of people coming up. So it's an interesting
There's,
interesting
you know, that,
transition.
yeah, there's definitely like a part of me that actually, not that I necessarily just want to, but there's almost like a feeling of like responsibility. Like if I've learned these forms, if I've learned corresponding drills, if I have learned, these things, I've spent this time to like figure these things out and have some kind of level of understanding or proficiency with it, then for me, it honestly feels like it would be irresponsible of me not to help push these things to another generation, especially with things like Wing Chun, because um, obviously lineages are an important kind of like tradition, whether it's protecting like a carrying on and protecting like a family name or family practice or a village practice or whatever it is. They play like a really, really, really strong role. And like the lineage that I practice, the Holun lineage is just not very common. Yet he was a guy that was, part of the whole mix from, late 50s, early 60s, probably early 60s, 61 to like up until the end pretty much for Yemen.
Yeah.
But I mean he was a guy that was there. He was part of all that. Like he played a role in that. He was part of that story. He was part of that history. And to let that die out because or to let that go to the wayside because, you know, people just didn't, keep up
Yeah.
with teaching it or whatever it is, I don't know, there's a part of me that feels like that would just be like a tragedy, you know?
Yeah. Eh,
Um,
I agree. Very much I agree. It's one of those where I'm like, there are going to be people. It's funny because I had this thought when I was thinking about the decline overseas, especially in Hong Kong, of people who want to train it. And I'm like, over here, we eat it up, we teach it, we preserve it. And I said, what's going to happen is one day there's going to be a renaissance over there, and who's going to give it back to them? You know, and it's a responsibility of preserving it as best as we can in case they come to us and are like, hey, do you happen to have that thing? Yeah, I have that thing. Here you go. Like, yeah, yeah, here it is. Hey, I kept it for you guys. It's
yeah, yeah,
but there's I
yeah.
think
Well, I'm trying to think. Is there a parallel that we can pull within like with like Dragon Ball in this? Like,
yeah,
I was thinking so. I definitely when my older daughter started watching Dragon Ball,
mhm.
I was like, oh hell yeah, it's on. It's like, here we go. Now, this is where I know more than you. I'm gonna drop some knowledge, child. Things like that. So that's the parallel I was looking for
Yep,
just, keeping that stuff alive, keeping it relevant,
yeah,
keeping it there, really.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I agree, and it's one of those, and I've had numerous conversations and had heard Sifu Alex talking with Yip Man students, especially Chenchi Man Sifu, who just being like, you're gonna carry this for us for it's you who your generation, your group who are going to carry this forward now. It's a responsibility, and it as much of a responsibility as it is a privilege, as much as it is like something to share and be shared. And that's, I think, the most important part, especially in my training. Now that I'm in the public face teaching, something many people told me, they're like, hey, when you start teaching, this is what you're going to encounter. And it's come true of, like, you're going to have people who want to come to you to fight. You're going to have people
Hmm.
that are going to
Hmm.
want to come to you for this. And he says, in all honesty, most people are looking for something. No one is looking for the same thing. So be
Mhm.
ready for that difference. And I think Randall
Yeah.
and them were talking about it in the episode with you. Same thing of like, yeah, you're gonna have a whole bunch of different people who want something completely different from the martial arts, no matter what it is. And keep it fun. Keep it keep it welcoming.
Lighthearted like Goku.
Yeah, lighthearted. Exactly. It's something to be fun. Funny enough, I recently just did a seminar with Sifu Francis Fong, and known about him for years. He was friends with my Sifu, and it was just one of those where I finally got to meet him, and he's just the dude. First of all, 70 something years old. Watching this dude transition from Chisao into jujitsu like it was nothing blew my mind. Him like, oh, I have him here, I have him here, and next thing I know, he's on the ground and has his kid in an armbar, and I'm like, okay, like, how did you? Okay, first of all, that's really cool. Second of all, show me how you maintain that into your 70s, because that is an impressive feat right there. And then to pop up like it's nothing, and him just like he was doing something and he goes, no, 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 smile, you have pretty teeth, smile, have fun with it. And I was like, yeah, no, he's right. He's like, see, the moment you smile, you have fun with it, look how much better you are. And like, just like that very like that type of energy, that type of like, we're having fun, man. It's we're training martial arts, we're doing something serious, but we gotta have fun with it. Like,
That's a huge thing for me because
yep.
especially with okay, so not trying to knock people's approach and all this kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
the strict, crazy serious all the time thing is
Yeah.
definitely a thing in Japan.
Yep.
Definitely a thing in Japan. Less of a thing in Okinawa, but maybe a little bit more so than you would find in like southern China or
Yep.
Hong Kong for that matter, probably. But the when people take the take any kind of enjoyment and fun out of things, to me, you're losing a bit of it. You're losing some of the soul.
Yeah.
Like that's because people join martial arts, people get into martial arts for any number of reasons, but a lot of people stay for relatively similar reasons. A lot of people stick with it for things that probably resonates with the people that they practice with. And a big part of that is probably community. And I don't know if there's any good communities that are built from like authoritarianism. So, and just being like mean and angry and super serious all the time. I think the good communities that you find out there are born from ones where people can have a little bit of fun and laugh with each other and actually have something to protect and maintain.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
so yeah, I think just to keep it Dragon Ball style, that lightheartedness like Goku is I think
Yep.
something that everybody could kind of like strive to shoot for.
Yep.
Train like you always got to beat somebody else like
Yep.
Vegeta obviously he's
Yep.
very much on his game. Goku's got like the natural kind of like talent stuff going on and
Yep.
um but there's room for both obviously.
There's
So
and that's I will say this, that's one of the best parts about training with Rick Hutton Sensei is he is super he on one hand he'll have like very serious like "Pow, pow, pow, pow," and then he'll just look and smile and be like, yeah, just like all of a sudden have like this like goofy moment like, it's just my thought. And then but also like, and then to like be done and like, hey, you guys want to go get a beer after class? Yeah, let's go get a beer, and we'll have a beer. And then he'll be talking about like rave dancing and like hand things for like rave dancing and break dancing and stuff. And he's like, and then he'll be like, and to like have that moment of like, oh, and I saw this video on YouTube, and like just like keeping it like, and he's not the very like, I'm the sensei this, and him being like, no, let's go have a beer and talk about some weird thing I just saw on YouTube.
that's
Like,
I mean
yeah,
I think that's no that's all a part of it. That's
yep,
Yeah, you got to be able to. There's, I can't remember the exact quote, but there's like some famous quote. I don't know entirely how accurate it is, but it's attributed to Motobu Choki, of Motobu Ryu and Motobu Odundi on the Okinawan karate side of things. I'm curious if I have it on my phone here real quick. But basically, it's a bit what he talks about is the quote is something like, nobody like if you're like martial arts have like if your personality and your martial arts like have no like flavor to them it's nobody's gonna like you kind of thing. It's basically like don't take yourself too seriously, go have fun,
yeah,
experience life. It's something along those lines. I could have totally just entirely remembered it inaccurately, but I think it's anyways, it is along those lines. It's like you gotta you gotta live it up a little bit and actually have something to celebrate and
Yeah.
look forward to and all this kind of stuff. Also, there, you know, not to get too sidetracked here, but there's a Buddhist monk by the name of EQ. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar. From back in, yeah, yeah, yeah. So kind of like a iconoclast in terms of things in that world, but he said something like relatively similar. It was like because he was known for going to like brothels and drinking and
Yeah.
partying and stuff, and he was like, look, if you can't distinguish if you never experience that stuff, if you don't know that, then you don't know what you're abstaining from, you don't know what you're whatever it is, you know. And I think that kind of like plays into the whole this, you know, the similar kind of concept of, look, you can't just be all, you know, all fun, or what is it, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
But there's
Exactly.
parallels with that and like everything that you can think of. So
Yep.
yeah, if you take yourself too seriously all the time, you can't have fun with the people that you're trying to build a community with.
Exactly.
Ah,
And I think on that note, man, I think that's the conversation. I think
all
really
right.
get together,
All
have
right.
fun, like keep it lighthearted, keep it communal. Um, just pass it on, man. Hey, thank you so much for popping on, man. Really appreciate it,
I mean,
especially with the
no,
time difference.
yeah, no, very much. Thank you for inviting me. And I mean, the topic when you said you wanted to talk about this, I was like, oh, dude, yes, we're doing this. And then
Awesome.
last night, it was just like a sign. The
Just,
kid talking to me, this he was like 20, 21 or something like that. But him talking to me about martial arts, uh, getting into it because of Toriyama and Dragon Ball. I mean, I
yeah.
was like, yeah, this is going somewhere.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, that's the great Dragon Ball, man, the great uniter. Like, what do we all have in common? Goku. All right, man. Thank you so much. Love to have you back sometime.
Yeah.
Let's work some stuff out.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right. Have a good one.
See ya.